Welcome to the Irish Exit Everything 2025 recap. This year, we were fed a hearty helping of slop, and not just AI-generated slop dumped onto our feeds and other platforms, making people question what's even real anymore. Which, as much as some people might want to ignore or deny all its adverse effects, AI is affecting employment currently, even if it's not actually capable of doing much. Corporations will look to cut costs on labor so they can continue to speculate and invest in the AI bubble. And we all know what happens when bubbles get too big. But we were also fed slop in the sense of empty promises, falsehoods, and unrealities from the powers that be about how life and the economy are great, and the US is the hottest country right now, it's not even close. And we're expected to uncritically trust someone who himself was fooled by slop, sharing and later deleting an AI video of a so-called med bed that can cure everything, and promising Americans special access cards. But that's of course not his only sloppy moment. He signed an executive order to rename the Gulf of Mexico while the entire rest of the world obviously still refers to it as such. He blamed a horrific mid-air collision between a military helicopter and an American Airlines plane on DEI and not an understaffing and overworking issue. He campaigned on releasing certain files, then had his minions claim there were no files, and then agreed to release those files heavily redacted. And he claimed to have ended 8 unendable wars, which makes him deserving of a Nobel Peace Prize. But take a closer look at any of those conflicts, and you'll see that either the fighting hasn't stopped, or tensions remain dangerously high. And durable, positive peace cannot be sustained solely by a fragile ceasefire. And in fact, after 2 years of genocide and forced starvation backed by US dollars had allegedly come to an end in Gaza, the proposed peace plan seems more like a performance. This is a textbook case of just saying shit-itis. Too bad we don't have a medbed to take care of that. And while more and more slop is forced down our throats, his administration's actions have very real harmful impacts. All year, Trump has been hot and cold on tariffs like a Katy Perry song, including a slew of so-called Liberation Day tariffs that he ended up walking back, including tariffs on an island inhabited by penguins. Speaking of Katy Perry, the pop star went to space and thought folks would be stoked about that, while we struggled to pay for groceries back on Earth, partly because of said tariffs, partly because of inflation as a result of the tariffs, even though we're supposed to believe inflation is deflating, and partly because of good old-fashioned price gouging thanks to all the uncertainty. Do you feel liberated yet? The effect of Trumponomics on foreign policy is clear. When you make trade deals practically impossible, you leave less room for diplomacy and make military action more likely to get what you want. As such, the Peacemaker president changed the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War, which honestly is more on brand anyway. The Trump administration bombed Yemen, killing women and children, with their war plans sloppily leaked in a group chat, now dubbed the Signalgate scandal. They bombed Iran while they were in nuclear deal talks, threatening a major escalation in the Middle East. And they bombed not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5, 6, 7, but at least 28 boats in the Caribbean and Pacific, killing a reported 104 people, no trial, alleging they were narco-terrorists. We have the benefit of hindsight, and we all pretty much agree at this point that the war in Iraq was about oil and not about alleged weapons of mass destruction or the war on terror. But we're expected to believe the extrajudicial killings of people on random boats, including the now infamous double tap, is about a war on drugs? Even Trump himself said the escalating tensions are about oil and land. And if you still had any doubt, the US seized a Venezuelan oil tanker, ordered a blockade on more oil tankers, and claimed fentanyl was a weapon of mass destruction. Deja vu, anyone? Do you feel liberated yet? But, you know, that record-high $900 billion military budget isn't gonna justify itself. So the commander-in-chief is also tossing around slop about supposed enemies within, which really could be anyone he decides on a whim, especially people who disagree with him. Democrats, political opponents, activists and organizers on the left, people who didn't mourn certain right-wing media figures. He even declared that to be opposed to fascism essentially makes you a domestic terrorist, and not a peep from the freedom of speech warriors. But we know his primary target for now is immigrants. I mean, he campaigned on a platform of mass deportation, and unfortunately he has been delivering on that promise. But he also said they would be targeting the worst of the worst criminals. Setting the stage, the Laken-Riley Act, the very first piece of legislation signed this year, empowered federal authorities to deport people who have been accused of crimes, not necessarily even convicted. But I ask you, in all sincerity, Are folks looking for work in Home Depot parking lots the worst of the worst criminals? Are factory workers the worst of the worst? Are makeup artists with tattoos the worst of the worst? What about daycare workers? Or what about 4-year-old cancer patients? Or US combat veterans? Do you feel liberated yet? And let's just be clear, people have the human right to movement, and crossing a border illegally or otherwise does not warrant hunting people down with masked agents as if they were monsters. Besides, the current administration doesn't actually care about immigration the right way. While this campaign of cruelty is absolutely a fear tactic meant to divide us and oppress a specific group of people, it's not hard to find the underlying motivation. There's a rotten core underneath the horrendous slop. Private prisons and detention centers are profiting from this. They are cashing in on caging people. Yes, it's always about money. Trump doesn't care about the working class. He serves the interests of his billionaire buddies and himself. The cornerstone legislation this year, the One Big Beautiful Bill, will facilitate the most significant transfer of wealth to the top in US history in several insidious ways, with not just tax cuts for the rich, but also the largest funding cuts to SNAP and Medicaid ever, leaving millions without health insurance. Because that's apparently what makes America great, pulling any semblance of a safety net out from under people who need it. And the Democrats have largely been spineless throughout all this. They folded like a plastic chair with the stopgap bill back in March with little pushback. And then they had all the leverage during the longest government shutdown in US history, in which the Republicans were trying to cut even more healthcare spending and holding food stamps hostage. And the Democrats caved, essentially for nothing, for a vote on extending Affordable Care Act tax credits, which the Republicans predictably are looking to avoid, making health insurance immensely more expensive and unaffordable for millions of Americans. Do you feel liberated yet? Thankfully, average working class people have been resisting. In this second Gilded Age, when Bezos is having a lavish wedding in Italy, Musk is poised to be the first trillionaire, Trump is peddling Teslas at the White House and enriching himself and his family with crypto schemes, working class people are saying enough is enough with the gross economic inequality and abuse of power. We saw 10,000 grocery workers in Colorado go on strike. Thousands more healthcare workers went on strike in California. And Starbucks baristas across the country are rising up in their Red Cup rebellion. The people of New York City heard Zoran Mamdani campaign on affordability and elected the Democratic Socialist as the next mayor, proving that material policy proposals are a winning formula. And he just simply has a lot of riz. But of course, political participation should not start and end on election day in any year. It's just one of many steps. We should hold all our elected officials accountable at all times. When DOGE began gutting federal agencies to the point of inefficiency, public employees pushed back. When Trump started rolling back collective bargaining rights, organized labor took the fight to the courts. Wherever ICE and the National Guard are deployed, LA, DC, Chicago, Portland, Memphis, Charlotte, people show up in the streets for their neighbors. And at a time when the president hosts military parades on his birthday, millions of people across the country marched en masse shouting "No Kings." Much like voting, attending a one-day protest is not enough on its own, but it does illustrate our collective power and the potential for alternatives. We just need an all-of-the-above strategy to win those alternatives. Local electoral politics, demonstrating, applying pressure, mutual aid. We're not cooked yet. We can refuse to consume the slop. We can resist the extractive logic that motivates more environmentally destructive AI data centers that generate even more slop. We can recognize the humanity of others, listen to their stories, and show up for one another. We can co-create a unique work of art together and build a safer future for everyone. Thanks for listening, and it's time to exit 2025. See you next year.